Good morning, everyone. So, yesterday we had started talking about different nutrients. This is one UPSC previous year question based on that. Which of the following elements are present in all proteins? So, they're asking you about the composition of proteins: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. All of these are going to be present in all proteins. Okay, so we had started talking about the vitamins, and we had said there are two kinds of vitamins: vitamin B and C, and the fat soluble vitamins. Out of this, we have spoken about the water soluble vitamins, and now we'll continue with the fat soluble vitamins. You can give the heading fat soluble vitamins. Fat soluble vitamins. And the first one is vitamin A retinol. Vitamin A retinol. Sources would be milk, carrots, and vitamin A has two important areas where it works: the eyes and the skin. Both for eyes and skin it is very important. And the deficiency disease is night blindness. Deficiency of vitamin A leads to night blindness. Then you have vitamin D calciferol. Vitamin D calciferol. What are the sources of vitamin D? Okay, yes, sunlight. So specifically it's dark skin which is going to be producing it. So you can write exposure of the skin for vitamin D source. Please write exposure of the skin to sunlight. Now this vitamin D is very important for our bones, for our bones. What happens is a vitamin D, it is very important for calcium absorption in the body. How your body will use calcium, that is dependent on presence of vitamin D. If vitamin D is not present, then calcium absorption is going to be difficult. The body will not be able to use any calcium unless vitamin D is present. That's why all calcium supplements, they will always have some amount of vitamin D. Because without that, calcium cannot be used. The deficiency disease is called rickets. It happens in children. And what happens there is the bones actually become deformed because of less vitamin D. See, if these are the legs of the child, with my drawing, extra imagination is needed. So the legs are supposed to be straight. But these legs are weaker because of less calcium absorbed into these bones. And because they are weak, when the child starts walking, he puts weight on these, they become deformed. These are the bow legs, we call them. So that's what is going to happen in rickets. So deficiency of vitamin D causes rickets. If calcium is deficient in itself, then also there can be rickets. कि calcium है ही नहीं bones में जाने के लिए. But अगर calcium sufficient है, vitamin D नहीं है, body will not use that calcium, it will simply be removed from the body. ठीक है? Okay. Now, vitamin E, tocopherol. Vitamin E, tocopherol. Sources will be vegetable oils, mango, vegetable oil, mango, and it is associated with muscle function also. And one very specific deficiency situation is reduced fertility in males. Because of vitamin E, the fertility levels, they are reduced. Then vitamin K or phyloquinone. Vitamin K or phyloquinone. Tomato sources, tomato, green leafy vegetables, tomato, green leafy vegetables. And its function is to help in clotting of blood. Whenever there is injury to any part of the body and blood is coming out, that blood has to be stopped. That is going to happen through a clot formation, and phyloquinone helps in that. If it is deficient, there is going to be increased clotting time. Increased time for the clot to form. What will happen if there is more time for the clot to form? More blood loss, right? More the time it will take, the more blood is going to be lost in that time period. Okay, so that's the role of vitamin K. After this, we will go to the minerals. The second micronutrient which is there, which is the minerals. So minerals are inorganic. They vitamins also, they were organic in nature. Minerals are now nutrients which are inorganic. They don't have anything to do with carbon, its structure, anything like that. And when we talk about minerals, we can divide them into two categories. We call one category as macro minerals and the other one as micro minerals. Here also micro and macro means the same thing, variation in quantity. But please remember these terms, you emphasize a little bit more. There is something called macronutrient, which is overall, and then you have macro mineral. Macro and micro mineral now is variation amongst themselves. Minerals overall are micronutrients needed less. and within that you have some minerals needed relatively more, some needed relatively less. This is a comparison amongst themselves. Okay. So please write about minerals. Minerals are inorganic. Minerals are inorganic micronutrients. Inorganic micronutrients needed for the proper functioning of an organism. Needed for the proper functioning of an organism. Then you please give the first heading, macro minerals. Macro minerals. And under that, the first one is calcium. With calcium, you can write the sources of calcium: milk and milk products. Milk and milk products. And calcium is needed for both bones and muscles. So in deficiency, you can write its deficiency can lead to brittle bones and a bad muscle movement. Brittle bones and a bad muscle movement. You can also write rickets here. अगर calcium deficiency हो तो भी you can have rickets. Then sodium. What is the source of sodium? Salt. And chlorine, what is the source of chlorine? Salt again. Okay, so we'll talk about both sodium and chlorine together. Okay, so sodium chloride is the composition of salt. And the role this salt plays is that it helps to maintain the fluid levels of the body. The main fluid of the body is water. So how much water will be in the body, that is decided by the level of this salt, by the level of sodium, level of chlorine. So in case there is a situation where you have deficiency of sodium or deficiency of chlorine, it will result in an imbalance in this. Fluid imbalance and a condition where you have less fluid. What? Yes, dehydration. The less fluid condition of the body is dehydration, and dehydration ultimately leads to a lot of weakness. Yesterday somebody had asked a question about salt and blood pressure. So the logic is this only, that if salt is more, fluid is going to increase. Going to be more fluid, more water in the blood volume will increase, it will exert more pressure on the blood vessels. So that is one other cause of hypertension, increased salt in the diet. Okay. So you can write both sodium and chlorine together. Yeah. Iodized salt will come. Iodine भी है एक mineral ना, आएगा अभी, माइक्रो मिनरल है. ठीक है, ये है कॉमन टेबल सॉल्ट. तो आप सोर्सेज में लिखोगे कॉमन टेबल सॉल्ट, common table salt. And for deficiency, you can write fluid imbalance and dehydration. Fluid imbalance and dehydration. Next, you have potassium. Potassium. Sources: most fruits and vegetables. Most fruits and vegetables. And its deficiency leads to muscle weakness. Its deficiency leads to muscle weakness. Then phosphorus. Pulses. Sources of phosphorus: pulses, milk, and phosphorus is present in bones and teeth both. So its deficiency leads to weaker teeth and bones. Then BP patients should drink less water as well for the control. Actually, that's not how it works. जितना salt है उतना पानी तो body collect कर ही लेगी. If you're drinking less water, urine output will be less. Okay, there is an organ to regulate how much water is going to be in the blood, and that organ is kidney. We'll study about the kidney also. So kidney का काम ही ये है कि देखना कि कितना पानी अंदर रखना है, कितना ज़्यादा बाहर निकालना है. ठीक है ना? तो अगर salt ज़्यादा है, so kidney will have to maintain that concentration and leave less water in the blood. So that will not help. Next is magnesium. Magnesium sources: nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds. And its deficiency leads to poor muscle coordination. Poor muscle coordination. Then we have sulfur. Sulfur. Sources: onion, garlic. Onion, garlic. And if you remember, yesterday we spoke about how some proteins have sulfur. So in this case, if sulfur is less, there's going to be protein deficiency. So in deficiency, you can write, it can lead to deficiency of proteins. It can lead to deficiency of proteins. Magnesium also affects muscle coordination. Rohan has asked. Yes, that is one very important thing. And deficiency may, if you understand the term tremors, shaky movements of the limbs, that is what happens when magnesium is less. Okay, now we'll come to the micro minerals. micro minerals. First one is iron. Iron. Do you know any good sources of iron? Spinach, okay. Like Popeye? Do you know about Popeye? Popeye is one of the world's earliest animated series. It came somewhere around the Second World War period, 1940, 42. And that was a time period where around the world there was a need to popularize healthier food items, and the world was struggling with availability of food, and men to work on the fields, men to fight in the war. So what happens in this story is that Popeye is a very thin man, a very thin, frail man, and he has a very huge, giant, bulbous enemy. But Popeye eats spinach. And as he eats spinach, he gets iron from the spinach, and with that iron, he becomes all powerful and he's able to beat up his enemy. Okay, so this was just one way of popularizing the green vegetables. Iron is a part of hemoglobin. Remember hemoglobin? So the structure of hemoglobin contains iron. And if iron is less, hemoglobin will be less, and what you are going to have is anemia. So in sources of iron, please write meat, spinach, and in deficiency, the name of the disease is iron deficiency anemia. That's the full name of the disease. So please write iron deficiency anemia. Iron deficiency anemia. Now you know two types of anemia already. Anemia means hemoglobin will be less. Reason for that can be different. One reason we studied yesterday was B12 deficiency. Now this is deficiency of iron. ठीक है, रीजन कुछ भी हो सकता है, अल्टीमेट थिंग इज हीमोग्लोबिन इज लेस. एंड for sources of iron, it's very important to understand this, that compared to meat, like if we talk about red meat specifically, the absorbable amount of iron in all the vegetarian sources, it's going to be much less. Spinach, apricots, beetroots, they all have iron, but the proportion is lesser. And the way you consume it here becomes very significant. Popeye ate spinach which was raw, okay, directly from the field or from a can which was not cooked. So that is the ideal way to consume anything if you want the maximum amount of nutritional value from it. The micronutrients. Vitamins or minerals ke liye, when you're eating any vegetable, any fruit, anything like that, it is going to be most beneficial, or it is going to have the highest nutrient value if it is raw. Cooking, like what is your consumption of spinach recipe? Go to spinach recipe. Palak paneer, no? So palak paneer mostly pressure cooked, high amount of oil and masalas and salt. That kind of reduces the absorbable amount of iron, which in the first place was also lesser, but और कम हो जाएगा जैसे जैसे जितना extreme cooking process चलेगा. So if you can take it raw, if you can take it in the form of say a salad or a juice, that's the most that's going to be most beneficial, and this applies to all sources for consumption of vitamins and minerals. Micronutrients food में कम हो जाते हैं with cooking process. ठीक है. What is the difference between micro and macro minerals. The difference is how much we need them. Macro minerals हमको थोड़े ज़्यादा चाहिए as compared to micro minerals. Micro minerals we need lesser. That's the point of difference. We'll come to the, sorry. Next one, fluorine. Next mineral is fluorine. Sources of fluorine are drinking water, and what fluorine does is it protects our teeth. If fluorine is less, our teeth are going to be easily damaged, easily decayed. So its deficiency leads to tooth decay or what we call cavities. या फिर आप बोलते हो दांत में कीड़ा लगना. So this कीड़ा, this decay which is happening in our teeth, it's the job of fluorine to protect against that. That's why all dental products, they will have added fluorine. So if you read what's there in a toothpaste or a mouthwash or dental floss or anything, it will have fluorine. Even products who claim to be natural, they also chemically add fluorine. So you know about Patanjali, right? What is the USP of Patanjali? What do they claim to do? All natural, right? All of the organic and all of those concepts are there. Now, if you read their toothpaste, right? They have a toothpaste also. So that toothpaste has chemically added fluorine, which they have mentioned also. So when you chemically treat something and add something to it, it's not all natural, right? In the true sense. Natural elements are there, but it's not all pure natural toothpaste. Because what the problem would be with a pure natural toothpaste is that this very essential function of protection from decay, that is going to be compromised. So they make a complete toothpaste, but the USP kind of falls out. Does calcium affect the growth hormone? No. Calcium does not affect any hormone working in the body. It can be the other way around. किसी hormone से calcium levels alter हो सकते हैं. But that hormone is also not growth hormone. We'll talk about growth hormone when we go to the chapter on hormones. Do we need a large amount of branch chain amino acids? So again, this is a little off track from our topic. You don't need so much detail. So we are going to come back to copper. Copper sources will be pulses, almonds, and its deficiency can lead to low white blood cell count. Low white blood cell count. The number of white blood cells in the body can reduce because of it. Then you have iodine. What is the source of iodine? Iodized table salt. Okay, so let's see what is the story with this iodized table salt. See, we've just now spoken about salt, where we have said that salt is sodium chloride. Now, what we do is, we take this natural salt and in the lab, we add iodine to it. Iodine इसमें naturally present नहीं है. We'll add it, we'll take it in a lab and then we are going to add it, and then this we call iodized table salt. तो आपको source में specifically लिखना पड़ेगा iodized table salt. Now why we are doing this is because otherwise आयोडीन का कोई नेचुरल सोर्स ऐसा नहीं है which most people consume on a daily basis. Like seafood has iodine, but for most of us, it is not a part of our everyday diet. So we needed a source which would be a part of people's everyday diet, and that source is going to be salt. Salt everyone uses every day. So to that, iodine was added. There's a technical term to describe this process, and that is fortification. Fortification means any food item to which micronutrients are added from outside. Micronutrients means vitamins and minerals. ठीक है, तो अगर हम vitamins या minerals extra डाल रहे हैं, then what can happen is that process is going to be called fortification. So this salt can also be called fortified salt. Okay, because iodine has been added from outside. What this iodine does is, this is involved in a thyroid hormone structure. This thyroid hormone, it contains iodine within its structure. तो अगर iodine कम होगा, this hormone will not be formed properly, and the whole functioning of the thyroid gland, that is going to be impaired. And you have a disease called goiter. And that's what makes this a very significant mineral to be in our diet. That's why there's this whole government program also to talk about, we must consume iodized table salt. Have you seen those ads asking you to eat iodized table salt? Iodine की कमी से किसी को भी खेंगा हो सकता है. No? Khenga is goiter. So source of iodine will be iodized table salt. Deficiency is going to be goiter. Okay. Any form of natural salt which you consume, like it can be rock salt or Himalayan pink salt, or like you have Sendha namak, all of these salts are not fortified. So if there is any idea of how these salts are healthier and they should be consumed, the very important aspect of that replacement is that at least one meal should have iodized table salt. Otherwise, there is a possibility that iodine का deficiency can happen. ठीक है? Okay. And specifically for this purpose, fortification of iodine and salt iodization. देखो, पहला तो क्वेरी पूछने का रूल ये है कि जो मन में सोच रहे हो वो भी लिखना है. How can you start a sentence with and? What is that supposed to mean? And के पहले वाला पार्ट मुझे कौन बताएगा कि अब आपने क्या सोचा है? This is a problem with textual communication, no? Half the thing you know you're thinking and something else you're writing. So I don't understand what you want to ask. What I can make out of this is, and specifically for this purpose, fortification of iodine and salt. To me, this looks like a definition, then why the question mark? So, okay. If we take minerals in excess, तो क्या होगा? So it will depend on what mineral you are taking in excess, right? There are a lot of minerals which can easily be removed by the body. But there are those minerals which stay in the body and they can cause different kinds of problem. एक example हमने किया है sodium chloride का. If sodium and chlorine is extra, it can lead to increased blood pressure. But different minerals will have different ways in which they can cause the damage. Which mineral is responsible for height increase? So probably I'm expecting you are over 20 years of age. And I don't think there's any mineral which can increase your height. But if this is a generic question, then the increase of height is mainly because of elongation of bones. And bone formation में calcium and phosphorus both play a very important role, along with proteins which are going to become a part of that whole structure. Horlicks has all those things, proteins, calcium phosphate. What is dental fluorosis? So fluorine can sometimes be extra. There are areas where the water contains more amount of fluorine than is needed. So in those areas, people can have some complications related to excess fluorine, which is called fluorosis. Fluorosis may the teeth are impacted. In very severe cases, the bone can also be affected. Okay. Coming to the last one, zinc. Zinc. Sources, fish, beans, and its deficiency can lead to diarrhea. Its deficiency can lead to diarrhea. Sorry. Okay. So diarrhea, if you understand, it might seem like a very simple situation, but diarrhea can have some very serious complications. Dehydration being the main thing, and in children, diarrhea is responsible for a very large number of deaths. In our country, we have children dying because of diarrhea. And the sad part of it is the treatment is very easy and it doesn't require a lot of medical supervision also. So there is something called ORS. You know about ORS? Yes, oral rehydration solution. ORS is the exact combination similar to body fluid ka combination, which has water, which has glucose for energy, which has salt, because water को balance करने के लिए you need salt. So whatever is lost in the body in diarrhea, that is going to be compensated with ORS. And the complete treatment is ORS plus zinc tablets. Zinc is supposed to keep the system stabilized so that further loss of fluids and nutrients does not take place. So by just doing this, we can save a lot of lives which are needlessly being lost these days. Okay. Is the saline also ORS solution? No. When you say saline, it is salt and water. It is not ORS. ORS की composition in all its components, that is important. Saline is only salt and water, if you use the word saline. Do all minerals are in liquid form or they might be in any form? See, body में तो सब कुछ dissolved ही है blood में, ठीक है? So solution form में आप बोल सकते हो. Technically, if you have to go into that aspect of chemistry, but individually तो mineral जैसे अब आप salt खा रहे हो तो आप वो solid form में जा रहा है. Nutrient अगर अकेले से निकालना है तो वो तो लिक्विड फॉर्मुलेशन नहीं होती है, बट वो प्रेजेंट सॉल्यूशन में ही होता है. लिक्विड में डिसॉल्व होता है, वाटर में डिसॉल्व होगा. What are electrolytes? So all the things, all the minerals which are dissolved in water, they are called electrolytes. Electrolyte और ORS same चीज नहीं है. That's another question. There is a brand name of ORS which is Electrol. So I think you're probably getting confused with that. ORS एक standard formulation है. There was this very famous doctor, Dr. Mahalambis, जिसने composition दिया था कि ORS में ये इतने percentage में होना चाहिए. He has actually died recently, so this was in a lot of news. He has also been given Padma Vibhushan award last year. So अब उसको different companies अलग अलग नाम से they can sell this ORS, that formula. So Electrol is one such brand, but that's different from electrolytes. Electrolyte means body के अंदर जो minerals हैं, उनको बोलते हैं हम dissolved minerals. They are the electrolytes. Okay. Now there is this one UPSC previous year question which you're going to solve. You can turn your pages, look for all these vitamins and solve the question. B, okay. Hmm. If we take minerals or proteins in tablet form, is it good for our body? I think I answered this question yesterday also. It will depend कि आपकी body का composition क्या है. अगर आपकी body में कोई चीज़ कम है and you take it from outside, that will help you in पता नहीं जहाँ से भी मुझे हवा आ रही है वो कम कर दो. So if it is less in any way, then you take it as a supplement, it's a very good option. All the deficiency symptoms which you might be experiencing, they are going to be reduced. But अगर आपकी body में already वो है और आप ज़बरदस्ती ले रहे हो, then it might end up doing some damage also. But as such supplements by design, they're supposed to help only. So उस चक्कर में there's no problem. So I have A, I have B, I have D. C also I have, all options. Okay. Which one of the following statements is not correct? So this is the first point you have to pay attention to. They're asking you for an incorrect statement. Most questions which you will attempt even till the last day of the exam are going to be the questions asking for correct statement. So this is very easy to miss out. And this leads to a lot of questions being incorrect because the not was missed out. Not या फिर ऐसे भी लिखा होता which of these is incorrect, right? So we miss that out and we just read it like that. So ये एक first point observe करना है. Second thing is like he's saying कि सारे options गलत हैं. तो this is also by design. When there is a negative statement question, all the statements, all the options are going to be picked up like that, that they appear to be incorrect. Okay, they are going to pick up lesser known facts which seem like they cannot be correct. So that is how the question is going to be framed. And another problem is, we have a very inherent bias for this exam where we think everything here is supposed to be very difficult. And this question is a very good example of that kind of a bias. The first statement says milk contains none of the B vitamins. Then vitamin A retinol deficiency leads to dry and scaly skin. One of the symptoms of scurvy is pain in the joints. Then vitamin B thiamine deficiency can lead to heart failure. So in this, there are 3 statements on symptoms and 1 is on a source. And source also, they've not asked you something like, sesame seeds or chia seeds. They've asked the most basic source there is available, and that is milk. And that when you have an option like this, that's when people start second guessing themselves कि UPSC exam no इतना simple थोड़ी पूछेंगे. Milk, they can't ask me about milk, they should have asked me something like heart failure. तो तभी IAS officer बनूंगा, right? This is something which you have to get over. It is very important that you take this objective test very objectively, and if you would have done that, this question all of you would have got the correct answer, but that did not happen. Milk is present in vitamin B's. You can go back and look at the different types of vitamin B's. किसी ना किसी में milk जरूर होगा, ठीक है? Milk is the complete food. Milk में proteins, carbohydrates, fats, minerals, vitamins सब कुछ होता है. Milk contains none of the B vitamins. This statement is incorrect. And this was actually a very simple question if you looked at the answer ultimately. But what made it complex is because you kept focusing on the other statements कि ये तो गलत लग रहा है, ये तो गलत लग रहा है. ठीक है? All these three statements are correct. Another thing which I want to tell you before I explain these statements is that questions are supposed to be source of new information. आपको क्लास में क्वेश्चंस मिल रहे हैं, आप टेस्ट दोगे. Whenever you are finding any question which has something new which you don't have already in your notes, please make it a habit of automatically noting that down, because there is no possibility of ever going back to this and revising each and every question. That's going to be very difficult. और revise नहीं किया तो as such waste ही है. So जो भी question है, you feel something is extra, something is new, please write that down. This will increase your content base. Yeah. In this type of questions where we know that only one of them is right, so तो हम कर लेंगे. But if it is given in the form of statement, yeah, then there is only one. Yeah, yeah. So last year UPSC brought up a new pattern where they asked one statement is correct, 2 is correct, 3 is correct, right? So what you also need to see is, again, questions are designed very fine, in a very fine manner. Those questions are simpler. They're not as complex as these questions. Especially in the science section, if you see only one, only two statements wale questions hain, the design itself was something which was scary, but वो questions इतने complex नहीं थे कि आपने सुना ही ना हो, right? So automatically they are also going to balance out somewhere, right? तो उसको करना इतना complex नहीं होगा. Then vitamin A retinol deficiency leads to dry, scaly skin. Skin से associated है vitamin A, this is correct. One of the symptoms of scurvy is pain in the joints. Scurvy में bleeding comes main symptom है, but pain is a very prominent symptom with vitamin C deficiency. And B and thiamine and heart failure. See, thiamine का काम है body में carbohydrate metabolism. The way your body produces uses carbohydrates, that is associated with B1. Carbohydrate कैसे break down होगा, कैसे उससे energy produce होगी, how the waste will be removed, that whole cycle, that is the vitamin B1 is involved in that. So if there is a deficiency, this will not take place normally. Starting point can be indigestion because of improper processing, and then there is going to be a problem with the energy receiving or energy creating process of the body. Now with that, different organs are going to be impacted differently, क्योंकि energy requirement meet नहीं होगी अगर carbohydrate अच्छे से use नहीं हो रहा है. So in that, heart is the main organ which is pumping blood, and through that blood, carbohydrates are going to different parts of the body. So heart function will be impaired to the highest level. The heart will try and work more so that carbohydrates can be sent to different parts in whatever form they are. So heart का size बड़ा हो सकता है, extra work, overworking से, and in an extreme situation, heart can also fail. ठीक है. So answer is A. How vitamin B? अच्छा. Okay. Okay. So with this, we complete our discussion on the food and nutrition topic, and we will go to the next topic, which is cell biology. This is going to be a little bit more biology than the first topic. So all the living organisms, all forms of life which we have, they are all made up of cells. The number of cells, kind of cells, that can be different, but cells are there in all cases. If we look at the structure of the smallest to the largest animals, organisms, sorry, not animal, all of their structures, all of their bodies, they are made up of cells. And if we look at the functions of life, if we look at what kind of functions living organisms are doing, like they are taking nutrition, then they are producing energy, then they are reproducing, they are removing the waste. All these life functions, they can be performed by the cell itself. A single cell is capable of doing all those things which you associate with living organisms or which you associate with life processes. So cell is a complete unit of life. चाहे आप structure में देख लो, चाहे function में देख लो, everything which you associate with life, with living organisms, with life processes, that a cell can do. So it is the smallest, basic, most simplest unit of life. Okay. What is selfie? This was supposed to be a joke. I'm sorry if you didn't get it. It means nothing. It just means the selfie which you take with your cell phone. The cell is taking a. I never thought I'd have to explain this. The cell is taking a selfie. So this is a pun on the words. And this means that we are going to go within that selfie and see what all things are. We're going to zoom into the cell's picture and see what is there inside. Okay. Okay. Please write the definition of a cell. Cell is the basic structural and functional unit of all known forms of life. All known forms of life. Now we are going to talk about different organisms based on this idea of the cell. So you can write types of organisms based on number of cells. Types of organisms based on number of cells. So you have unicellular organisms, that's one category, and the second is multicellular organisms. Unicellular organism means there is a whole organism in just one cell. Single celled organism. Single cell hai, that means all the functions, everything, all the life processes, they are going to be done by this single cell. Multicellular is when you have more than one cell. Now, when you have more than one cell, then there is a possibility that different cells can take different functions also. Like in your body, you have the stomach for digestion, you have the kidneys to remove the wastes. All of these organs, they are made up of cells only. But cells have specialized. They have taken specific function. Unicellular में, however, that's not possible. Unicellular में एक ही cell है, everything that one cell has to do. Please write first unicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms, they contain only a single cell. They contain only a single cell which can perform all the life processes. Which can perform all the life processes. And let's see examples of unicellular organisms. Okay, amoeba, bacteria, euglena, paramecium. They are all single-celled organisms. Please write these examples. Unicellular organisms. Then write down multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms. They consist of more than one cell. More than one cell. The different cells can be specialized. The different cells can be specialized for different functions, all of which coordinate to make life possible. All of which coordinate to make life possible. And these are some of your multicellular organisms. Insects, humans, plants. They are multicellular organisms. They have more than one cell. Now we are going to talk about another categorization of organisms. And here it is going to be based on how simplified or how complex their internal structure is. So we have two categories again. One is called prokaryotes, second is called eukaryotes. If you just look at these, which do you think is more complex in their structure? Right, the eukaryotes. Just by looking at it without talking about any feature, this is very clear कि ये simpler structure है, this is a more complex structure. What happened is that when life was first being formed, we had the simple prokaryote organisms and they were unicellular, single-celled organism. Then over a period of time, within them, specialized features started developing. Basically, specialization here means in terms of functions only. जैसे पहले एक सेल है, उसके अंदर जो भी functions हैं लाइफ के, एनर्जी प्रोडक्शन, वेस्ट रिमूवल, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन, दैट इज हैपनिंग बट विदाउट एनी डिमार्केटेड एरियाज. ठीक है, कोई भी चीज कहीं पे भी हो सकती है, सिंपल स्ट्रक्चर. बट देन within the cell, specialization started happening. Okay, this is the place where proteins will be produced. This is a dedicated place where energy is going to be produced. This is where things will be stored. So this specialization within the cell for different functions, when that took place, the cell became a eukaryote. It was also first unicellular, but its specialization helped it achieve multicellularity also. Presently in the world, we have unicellular prokaryotes and unicellular prokaryotes, unicellular eukaryotes and multicellular eukaryotes. Eukaryotes में दोनों types possible है. Unicellular तो वो थे ही पहले, multicellular भी हो सकते हैं. Prokaryotes, only unicellular. Now let's see what are the specific features which are distinguishing these two types, and then we'll write about these two cells. Types of organisms based on organization within the cell. Prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Now the feature of specialization which I have told you, we have a technical term for that. It is called cell organelle. We'll study about what a cell organelle is after this, but the idea is that cell organelle are just like organs in a person's body. Jैसे you have stomach for digestion, you have lungs for respiration, kidneys for excretion. Like this, within the cell also, just like organs, you have specialized structures within the cells called organelles, which will be, each organelle will be given a fixed function, that your job is to produce energy. Your job is to collect foreign things, foreign material which is coming from outside or anything like that. So specialized structures within the cells are called cell organelle. Prokaryotes mein, we've just now spoken, they are not present. There is no specialization in the structure of a prokaryote. Eukaryotes mein, they are present. It is a feature of eukaryotic cell. Then second difference is going to be in the genetic material. Have you heard about this term, genetic material? Okay, what is it? DNA. Okay. So genetic material, when I'm talking about, I'm referring to the DNA. All living organisms, they will have DNA. Okay, DNA is present and DNA is supposed to have all the information of how the organism will operate. Like the DNA in my body, that decides what kind of voice I'll have, what kind of eyes I'll have, what kind of hair I'll have, and how my different organs will function. So all the information controlling my activity is in my DNA. And how I have received this information is, I have received it through my parents. Okay, my parents, they had DNA which they transferred to me. So now I have some of my features like them. That's also because of DNA. Like my hair might be like that of my father, my eyes might be like that of my mother. That's because I have received DNA from them. So genetic material controls the functioning of an organism, and it is also going to transfer information from one generation to the next. That is the role of genetic material. We are going to talk a great deal about it in genetics. The point here is that they both have DNA, but how they are going to have DNA, that is slightly different. प्रोकैरियोट्स में डीएनए होता है सर्कुलर और यूकैरियोट्स में डीएनए होता है लीनियर. डीएनए सेम है, पर्पस सेम है, सिर्फ अरेंजमेंट का फर्क है, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का डिफरेंस. I'll take you to that diagram again and then we'll see all these things specifically there and then we'll write down. Okay. Prokaryotic cell, तो ये बीच में जो structure है, this is DNA. Why we are saying circular? Because it's joined at all the ends. So prokaryotes पे there is circular DNA. Eukaryotes में the DNA is in the form of chromosomes. Have you heard about chromosomes? So chromosomes are rod-like structures of DNA. So when I use the word rod-like, you can associate it with the linear form. Okay, rod is going to be a linear form. Now in this particular cell, chromosomes are present in this structure called the nucleus. There is a specific structure where chromosomes are present. There is a proper covering over that structure. So that dedicated structure is nucleus. प्रोकैरियोट्स में ऐसा कोई न्यूक्लियस या कोई स्ट्रक्चर नहीं होता है. सिंपली wherever the DNA is present, that place is called nucleoid region. तो सेल में वो कहीं भी बड़ा हो सकता है, जहां भी बड़ा होगा उसको बोल देंगे ये न्यूक्लियोइड रीजन है, बिकॉज दैट्स वेयर डीएनए इज प्रेजेंट. दिस इज द फर्स्ट पॉइंट ऑफ डिफरेंस. सेकेंड इज इन दी ऑर्गेनेले. ये जो बाकी और इतने कलर्ड स्ट्रक्चर्स दिख रहे हैं, these are the cell organelle. All these cell organelle have a proper covering. Covering को बोलते हैं membrane. So there is membrane bound cell organelle present in eukaryotes, absent in prokaryotes. And if we look at examples, we have bacteria, cyanobacteria. They are also called blue-green algae. They are the prokaryotes. All the other organisms are going to come in the category of eukaryotes. So, amoeba, fungus, plants, animals, they are all eukaryotes. Let's write this much. Please write prokaryotes first. Prokaryotes. They are unicellular organisms. They are unicellular organisms which lack a membrane bound nucleus, and cell organelle. Which lack a membrane bound nucleus and cell organelle. The genetic material DNA is circular and is present in the nucleoid region. Then you can write examples, bacteria and cyanobacteria. Bacteria and cyanobacteria. Then eukaryotes. Eukaryotes. They can be unicellular. They can be unicellular or multicellular. They have a membrane bound nucleus. They have a membrane bound nucleus and cell organelle. Membrane bound nucleus and cell organelle. The genetic material, DNA, is in the form of rod-like structures called chromosomes. And then you can write examples: amoeba, fungi, plants, animals. They are all eukaryotes. Lifespan of a single-celled organism, and does their cell change? Does it or doesn't it? If yes, will they die? Why does human cells completely change by 7 years? Okay. What does nucleoid mean? Also, how is it different from the nucleus? Left different plant cell, animal cell. Okay. See, all cells, all organisms, they are going to change. There is a possibility of change happening, and that change is linked to the working of DNA. If DNA changes, cells working, everything changes. Okay. And if a cell changes, that doesn't mean that the organism dies. Okay, the organism can function in a new form also, in a new changed form also, right? Human cells are also changing because of different developmental stages of life. So, as the requirement of a particular age and time, cells will change. Only nucleus have a membrane or other organelle? Yes, other organelles also. ये लिखा है ना देखो, membrane bound cell organelle. Cell organelle का मतलब ही ये, they are going to have a membrane, they are going to have a covering. This means that multicellular must be eukaryotic, yes, but unicellular can be only prokaryotic नहीं. यूनिसेलुलर यूकेरियोटिक भी हो सकता है, प्रोकैरियोटिक भी हो सकता है, दोनों हो सकता है. मल्टीसेलुलर सिर्फ यूकेरियोटिक होगा. दैट्स द वेरिएशन है. ठीक है. नाउ वन मोर category of organisms, or one more organism I want to talk about before I take you to the structure of the cell, and that is the virus. So if you've noticed this, till now we've not mentioned the virus anywhere. Unicellular, multicellular, eukaryotic, prokaryotic, virus did not come anywhere. There's something very special about the virus because of which it has to be studied separately. Virus is not exactly a cell. It is not a complete organism. We use the word acellular for the virus. Virus has properties of living organisms, like virus has a genetic material, and in this genetic material also there is a slight point of variation. वायरस का मेन जेनेटिक मटेरियल डीएनए हो सकता है या फिर आरएनए भी हो सकता है. What does it mean to have a main genetic material? That is different, that we will come across when we study genetics. Here you should know there can be viruses which don't have DNA, which only have RNA. And there can be other viruses which, like all the other organisms, can have DNA. This is also an exceptional feature because there are no other organisms जिसमें सिर्फ RNA. I'll give you examples also. Yeah, you have the chicken pox virus. It is a DNA containing virus, and you have the COVID-19 virus, which is the RNA containing virus. So genetic material है, अपना protein coat है. This is the proteins of the virus. But viruses lack the enzymes needed for energy. To produce energy, there are certain enzymes which are needed in the body, and viruses don't have those enzymes. So if you can't produce energy, you can't do anything. Virus in itself is like a non-living thing. Okay, ना वो एनर्जी प्रोड्यूस करेगा ना वो कोई और काम करेगा. ठीक है, it's just existing there. But what virus can do is, once it is inside the body of another organism, it has the capacity of using the energy being produced there using their enzymes, and then it can function. So virus की life start होती है when it goes into another cell. Its size is very small, तो ये बैक्टीरिया के अंदर जा सकता है, प्लांट सेल के अंदर जा सकता है, एनिमल सेल में जा सकता है, सब जगह जा सकता है. But without going into another cell, it cannot grow, it cannot produce more viruses, it cannot do any activity. And that is what makes the position of a virus very, very unique. We cannot categorize it with any of the other cellular organisms. ना हम उसको यूनिसेलुलर बोल सकते हैं, ना मल्टी सेलुलर बोल सकते हैं, प्रोकैरियोटिक, यूकैरियोटिक, none of the terms will fit in here. ठीक है? Please write a few lines about the virus. Viruses are agents. Viruses are agents which can grow and replicate, only inside the living cells of another organism. Only inside the living cells of another organisms. They have their own genetic material. In the bracket you can write DNA or RNA. DNA or RNA in the brackets. And their own set of proteins. But they lack the enzymes needed for production of energy. They can infect animals, plants, or microorganisms like bacteria. If they can't do any activity, then how it enters our body? Okay, so Shivani, are you thinking something like that the virus should move its hands and swim and then enter the body, something like that? आपने पानी पिया, पानी में वायरस था, वायरस अंदर चला गया. आपने सांस ली, हवा में वायरस था, अंदर चला गया. Right? So that is not a very complex process. Isn't the virus like a parasite? See, parasite एक generic word है. Virus can be a parasite, can be called a parasite, but you have to understand what this word means. Parasite is a very broad term. When you call anything a parasite, there are two factors to consider. One is a parasite lives in or lives on another organism. And the second thing is it gets nutrition from it. Okay. So virus को तो energy producing enzymes, energy process directly मिल जाती है. So you can still say, okay, it doesn't have a specific nutritional process कि nutrition खुद से करना है, वो सीधा energy use कर लेता है cells की. ठीक है. So not a very appropriate term for the virus, but yes, it is dependent to survive on the organism and it will live inside the organism. So you can say parasites. So mosquitoes are parasites. No, mosquitoes are not parasites. No mosquito lives inside your body. Okay. So ये living वाला factor is very important. ठीक है. Mosquito के अंदर parasite हो सकता है, right? Again, which might be living inside it and getting nutrition from it, but no. Can a virus have both DNA and RNA at the same time? We'll talk about this, how viruses work and operate when we come to genetics again, but the answer is yes, that is a possibility. But the roles which DNA and RNA which will play, that will be different. That's the important point of consideration. जैसे हमारी body में भी DNA भी होता है, RNA भी होता है, right? But we are still saying our genetic material is DNA. What this means is our information for my hair, my eyes, my skin, that is in DNA. So that kind of an understanding we'll develop when we go to genetics. Okay, so we'll take a break here. Then we'll talk about the structure of the cells, what are the different organelles, what they do after the break. Okay, so I think there's some confusion in this question number 10 as I've been asked. So the statement which is saying B12 has no vegetarian sources is a slight point of confusion here because there is this interpretation that milk is vegetarian. Okay, so if you think like that, then there's going to be some point of confusion. Milk में तो B12 होता है, milk products में, right? Plant-based would have been a more appropriate term here. Okay, so the statement, if it was B12 has no plant-based sources, then it was correct, right? So any confusion you have in that area, the problem is with being plant-based and the controversy with milk, right? So if you understand that concept, the question is fine, okay? Okay. Now we're going into the structure of the cell. We are going to see the different parts of the cells, what are their functions, what do they do, and Let's start talking about that. Your heading is going to be structure of the cell. Now, in this, we'll first start to talk about the cell from its outermost covering. Okay, the outermost covering is called the cell membrane. And yesterday we have studied that this cell membrane is made up of fats. The specific types of fats which make the cell membrane is phospholipids. The cell membrane is present in all the cells. It is basically what gives shape to the cell, what keeps the content of the cell within it. Okay. Now, in this, within the cell, as you go inside, there's going to be a nucleus. What does the nucleus do? We've spoken about the nucleus. Contains genetic material, right? And because of that, because of the fact that we said that genetic material is what is controlling all the activities or what is deciding how the cell will work. So this is like the brain of the cell. The rest of it, cell membrane के अंदर एक nucleus है. Rest of the things, rest of it, the medium, it's a liquid medium called cytoplasm. And sometimes what can happen is, additionally, outside this, there is a cell wall. Please remember this cell membrane, or it is also called plasma membrane, that is going to be present in all cases. Okay, but cell wall will be present additionally in some cases. This is when there is a need for extra support, extra protection, and cell wall is present in plants, cell wall is present in bacteria, cell wall is present in fungi. Plant cell wall we studied yesterday, made up of cellulose. Bacteria ke liye you have something called peptidoglycans, and for fungi we have chitin. So we'll write this much first, then we'll go on further. Give the heading structure of the cell, and then the first thing you'll write is cell membrane or plasma membrane. Cell membrane or plasma membrane. It is the biological membrane. It is the biological membrane that separates. It is the biological membrane that separates the interior of all the cells from the outside environment. The interior of all the cells from the outside environment. It is made up of phospholipids. It is made up of phospholipids. Then please write cell nucleus. Cell nucleus. It is the controlling center. It is the controlling center of all the activities. It is the controlling center of all the activities of the cell. which contains the genetic material of the cell. Which contains the genetic material of the cell. It is called the brain of the cell. It is called the brain of the cell. Then cytoplasm. Cytoplasm. It consists of all the components of the cell. It consists of all the components of the cell enclosed within the cell membrane. Enclosed within the cell membrane. Other than the nucleus. Other than the nucleus. Then cell wall. Cell wall. It is the structural layer. It is the structural layer surrounding the cell membrane. Surrounding the cell membrane in certain types of cells. In certain types of cells to provide additional support and protection. To provide additional support and protection. It just means that we are dividing the interior of the cell into two parts. Nucleus is a very big, very prominent part. So we are giving it its own place. We say nucleus है और जितनी जगह बच गई उसमें liquid है, उसको बोला cytoplasm. ठीक है? So all rest of all the things, all the cell organelle, they are in the cytoplasm. Okay. Now we'll see what all things are present within the cytoplasm. We'll start from here. We have lysosome. Now lysosomes have very powerful enzymes with which they can break down anything which comes from outside. So any foreign material, anything which is coming into the cell that will need digestion, that will need to be broken down, and that is happening in the lysosomes. Lysosomes also have the potential of destroying any of these cell organelles. See, suppose there is a cell organelle which is not working properly, it's damaged, there is wear and tear, then what can be done is lysosome can break that down. And in very severe cases, suppose the whole cell is not working properly, then what will happen is that it can break down the whole cell. How? Lysosome will open, सारे enzyme cell के बीच में आ जाएंगे, the whole cell will be destroyed. So this is the cell killing itself. So we say this is the cell committing suicide. Lysosomes are called suicide bags of the cell. Then you have mitochondria. Yes, everybody knows mitochondria. That's the only thing you know from biology. So mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. That means this is the location where the cell is producing its energy. And one very significant point about mitochondria is that it has its own DNA. जो cell का main DNA है to operate the cell, that's present in the nucleus. But for the working of mitochondria, mitochondria has its own very small piece of DNA, which is a very significant feature for mitochondria. Then you have ribosomes. This is the location where proteins are produced. We say protein synthesis. The cells prepare their own proteins, and that happens in the ribosomes. So we have a large number of these small ribosomes in different parts of the cell care. And they can sometimes be present in association with another cell organelle. So एक और organelle है which is called endoplasmic reticulum. This is the transportation system of the cell. The cell is making, receiving a lot of things, and if things have to move from one part of the cell to the other, or say from the nucleus to cytoplasm, something has to move. So there is a large network of tubes. These are tubes through which different things can be transported to reach from one place to the other. These endoplasmic reticulum can sometimes have attachments of ribosomes. So if they have ribosomes, they are called rough endoplasmic reticulum, and in turn they also become involved in protein production. The other variety of endoplasmic reticulum where there is no ribosomes, they are called smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And the smooth ones are associated with producing fats. So if there is a question which is asked that which of these can be associated with protein production, you will have to select ribosomes also, you will have to select endoplasmic reticulum also. Both. And if the question says endoplasmic reticulum produces proteins only, then that will be incorrect. क्योंकि उसका एक part है which is making fats. ठीक है? Okay. Then you have Golgi bodies. This is for movement of things across the cell membrane. Cell के अंदर से बाहर, बाहर से अंदर, if anything has to move, that job, that whole packaging, dispatching, moving things across the membrane, that job is done by Golgi bodies. And the last organelle is vacuole, which is for storage. Anything that needs to be stored, starch, glycogen, oil, amino acid, जो भी चीज सेल को स्टोर करनी है, एक्स्ट्रा है, that will go to the vacuole and get stored. ठीक है? Let's write this. Start with lysosomes. First organelle will be lysosomes. It contains lysosomes. It contains powerful digestive enzymes, to digest any foreign material, or broken cell organelle. It can break down the whole damaged cell by releasing its enzymes into the cytoplasm. It is thus called the suicide bag of the cell. It is thus called the suicide bag of the cell. Then mitochondria. Mitochondria. It contains its own DNA. It contains its own DNA and is the site for energy production within the cell. And is the site for energy production within the cell. It is called the powerhouse of the cell. It is called powerhouse of the cell. Then ribosomes. Ribosomes. It is the site for protein synthesis in the cell. It can be present freely. It can be present freely or attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. Or attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. Then you will write endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum. It is a large network. It is a large network of tubes. It is a large network of tubes which act as channels of transport within the cell. Channels of transport within the cell. Then write rough endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum contains attached ribosomes. Contains attached ribosomes and is associated with production of proteins. Production of proteins. Then smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum. It does not contain ribosomes. It does not contain ribosomes and is associated with manufacture of fats. Manufacture of fats. Then Golgi bodies. Golgi body. It packages and dispatches material. It packages and dispatches material to various targets inside and outside the cell. To various targets inside and outside the cell. Now for the vacuole, there is one exception which we have to first look at, then we'll write about the vacuole. So vacuole, you said, is for storage. But this actually has different forms in animals and plant cells. In animal cells, this is the cell, this is the nucleus, and there are many small vacuoles which are present. In a plant cell, what happens is, there is one very large vacuole and it actually takes up almost the whole space of the cell, such that the nucleus which was supposed to be in the central is actually pushed to one side. So function same hai, structure different. One large vacuole, animals में many small vacuoles, and that impacts the position of the nucleus. यहाँ पे nucleus becomes peripheral, animal cells में it is central. Please write vacuoles. They are the storage structures. Vacuoles are the storage structures of the cell. Storage structure of the cell. They can be present in the form of a single large structure in the plant cell, or multiple small structures in the animal cells. Last organelle is an exception for plants. It's present only in plant cells, and that is plastids. Different parts of this plant have different colors, and there are different chemicals responsible for giving this color. Plastids contain those pigments for different colors. And they also have their own DNA. So in plants, there are actually two organelle with their own DNA. Mitochondria तो है ही है, साथ में plastids भी. Please write for plastids. Plastid contains pigments of different colors and are found only in plant cells and are found only in plant cells. They contain their own DNA. They contain their own DNA and are of three types. And are of three types. The three types I've written here. So we have chloroplasts, chromoplast, and leucoplast. So chloroplasts will be present in all the green parts of the plant, basically the leaves. And chromoplasts for all the other different colors, like colors of flowers, fruits. For that you can have chromoplasts, and leucoplasts wherever it's white or colorless. You heard about chlorophyll? So chlorophyll is the name of a pigment which is responsible for green color. So chloroplast के अंदर जो pigment है, जो chemical है, that is chlorophyll. Like that, for all different colors, you can have different pigments. Please explain endoplasmic reticulum and ribosomes again. See, ribosomes are structures which produce proteins. The only job of ribosome is to make protein. Endoplasmic reticulum is for transportation. Endoplasmic reticulum is tubes which are lying all around the cell so that things can move from one part to the other. Endoplasmic reticulum के साथ ribosome can be attached. If that is the case, we say this endoplasmic reticulum now will also be involved in making proteins. And अगर नहीं है ribosomes, then it will be making fats. The next part is your differences between plants and animal cells. And based on the structure of different parts of the cell, this you are going to write on your own. Can you tell me what are the points of differences between plants and animal cells? Okay, cell wall. Cell wall plants में present है. Animals में there is no cell wall. You only have the cell membrane. Plastids. Animal cells, no plastids. यहाँ पे they've shown chloroplasts. So plastids are present. Vacuoles. Okay, so this is this one large vacuole. So one large vacuole. Yes. And animal cells में multiple small vacuoles. Please keep writing all this. Nucleus का position is central in animal cells. And it is going to be peripheral. You can see here it's pushed to one side. Nucleus. One more point I'll add from what we, yes, presence of starch. We studied this yesterday. And animal cells में glycogen. Why leaves turn yellow? There can be some other pigments also along with chlorophyll, which can come as the leaves age, which can lead them to turn yellow and ultimately they'll fall out. Now, this exactly was asked in one of the UPSC prelims questions. क्या होता है? हाँ, लाइसोसोम होता है. सब कुछ सेम है, जो कुछ आपने पढ़ा है, everything else is the same other than this. Okay, I'll take you to the question. This is a UPSC previous year question. Please give me the answer to this. Which of the following statements are correct regarding the general differences between plants and animal cells? Plant cells have cellulose cell wall, while animal cells do not. Is this correct? Plant cells have a cell wall, and they've specifically asked you also what this cell wall is made up of. It is made up of cellulose. Animal cells do not. So we want one in our answer. One option is eliminated. Then plant cells do not have plasma membranes, unlike animal cells which do. So it's saying plant cells में plasma membrane या cell membrane नहीं होता है. So which is incorrect. The cell wall they have is in addition to the plasma membrane. So second statement is also incorrect, which leads us to the answer, which is C, 1 and 3 only. The third statement is mature plant cell has one large vacuole while the animal cell has many small vacuoles. So C, 1 and 3 only. Okay. Now, based on our understanding of the cell and the basic organization of different themes of cellularity, unicellular, multicellular, and eukaryotic, prokaryotic, we're going to divide all organisms in 5 categories. See, classification of organisms into different groups actually helps in studying those organisms and referring to them. So there are some common features based on this, which this classification has been created. We have a prokaryote group, then a group called protista, then you have plants, animals, and fungi. Now there are many other classifications also. This is one of the most simplest and the most widely accepted classification. We really don't need a lot of details of the features. We just need to have some idea about this, because when we come to diseases, we are going to be referring to these groups again, because all of these are causing different kinds of diseases in human beings. So just for that idea, we'll be looking at them and we'll be seeing some examples. You can make a table or write one by one each group. Your heading is going to be classification of organisms again. And this time we are broadly using the 5 kingdom concept. 5 kingdoms में से, please write, first kingdom is called kingdom Monera. This is a kingdom where you have prokaryotes. Prokaryotes will be unicellular or multicellular or both? Unicellular. Always unicellular. So you have unicellular prokaryotes. And now can you tell me an example? आप देख सकते हो पीछे भी ढूंढ सकते हो ढूंढ के देखो पैरामीशियम is not prokaryotic. So जो भी आपने एग्जाम्पल प्रोकैरियोट्स के लिखे हैं बेसिकली दे विल कम हियर. All the prokaryotic organisms of the planet, they come in this group. The other four groups, they are eukaryotic. Now eukaryotes can be unicellular, multicellular or both. Both. So that's how the rest of the classification will come along. Second group is protista. Here this is eukaryotes, but those eukaryotes which are unicellular. Now, any example of this? जो आपने यूनिसेलर के एग्जाम्पल्स देखे हैं, just take a look at that. Other than bacteria, they are all going to be in kingdom protista. They are all eukaryotic. So amoeba, euglena, paramecium, they are all going to be here. Next is your kingdom fungi. The fungus is also eukaryotic, but in terms of cellularity, we see both kinds in the fungus. Unicellular, multicellular. Examples would be of yeast. Yeast can be unicellular, and the other common example is mushrooms. उसके बाद we have plants, eukaryotes, multicellular, and examples of plants, you know, any plants, starting from the simpler plants like ferns to more complex flowering plants like sunflower. Last is the animal kingdom, where all of you are placed. Eukaryotes, multicellular. Examples can be simple animals like Hydra. Knew about Hydra? To advanced animals like dolphins or human beings, insects, crocodiles, octopus, they're all animals. All come in animal kingdom. ठीक है? We'll refer to this again when we go to diseases. You don't need a lot of details, but you need to have this basic idea at least. Okay. Now with this we finish our chapter on cell biology and we come to the next chapter, which is the health. Now as we start talking about health, the important question here is that what do you understand by the term health? When you say somebody is healthy, what does that mean? Physical, mental, social well-being. Okay. Anything else? A little bit more simple. What does it mean to be healthy? Lack of any disease, right? The most simplified point, starting point is no disease. No disease means you are healthy, right? But it has to extend further, like you're talking about the idea of wellness, physical, mental, and social. Physical means all the parts of the body, all the organs are supposed to be working properly. Mental means the mind is supposed to be working properly. And because human beings are social organisms, so they should be able to survive in a society and have normal social or proper social interactions. Okay. For UPSC aspirants also, this is the most important lesson right from the first day. Because health is going to be something which is going to be on the least priority list for you people, because UPSC exam and so much is at stake. But the problem with this exam is that you cannot really have a crash course kind of approach. बहुत ज़्यादा पढ़ लेंगे, 10 घंटे 12 घंटे पढ़ना है. And yesterday somebody asked me, ma'am, is it okay if I don't sleep a lot? Right? Can I like cut down on my sleep? Now, the idea is that you cannot do that because your journey is very, very long. It takes 2 years for an aspirant to go through this exam process normally in one cycle. और अगर उसके बाद attempts बढ़ें तो 1 year again for that whole exam process itself. So think of how much your body has to go through and for such a long time period. University exam वाला जो concept होता है कि 2 महीने अब बस दुनिया छोड़ के पढ़ लेंगे, that doesn't work here. And that is the biggest problem. You know why people from so many different backgrounds and from all walks of life, they are able to clear this exam, and some of the people from the best backgrounds, the highest IQs maybe, are not able to do that is because of the idea of consistency. All these years, my biggest observation and learning about this exam has been consistency. As this I feel is the biggest problem. People work very hard, but they're not able to maintain that. 2 महीने बहुत जबरदस्त पढ़ाई करी, right? दुनिया जीत लेंगे attitude से तैयारी शुरू की, and then it just keeps coming down. And maybe you pick up also in between again with some motivation, but ये जो peaks वाला pattern है, यहाँ पे नहीं चलता. The only thing which is working for everyone is the consistency. अब आपकी कंसिस्टेंसी हो सकता है 3 घंटे में आ जाए, हो सकता है 4 में आ जाए, 5 में आ जाए, 10 में आ जाए. That's again for you. You are a different person than the next person sitting to you. The level where you have started is different, right? Your understanding ability, आपको कितना revision चाहिए, that is all your own thing. But you have to maintain that level. आपका 4 घंटे में काम चल रहा है, आप 4 घंटे पढ़ो, लेकिन हर रोज पढ़ो. Right? It will not work like this कि मैं कुछ दिन 10 घंटे पढ़ूंगा और कुछ दिन मैं पढ़ूंगा ही नहीं होगा. And if your body is not with you, तो वैसे इतना लंबा कहानी चलेगी नहीं. The physical health exceptionally important. You cannot afford to fall sick. And health के factor में it doesn't work like that also. कि अभी 2 साल मैं संन्यास ले लेता हूँ हर चीज से, and then I will join the gym and do this and that whatever. It will not work like that. You have to invest in all these things right from the beginning. They are a part of your preparation. You need to find some form of physical activity because the preparation is very sedentary. Glued to your desk kind of preparation is there. So आप 5 मिनट निकालो, 10 मिनट निकालो, 15 मिनट निकालो, पर रोज निकालने पड़ेंगे. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि संडे को वर्कआउट करूंगा. नो, एवरी डे आप 5 मिनट वॉक करो, जो भी whatever you find for yourself, but you have to do it every day. Mental health extremely important. The design of this exam is so flawed that it is meant to play with your mental health. ठीक है, अब रिजल्ट आया. जो रिजल्ट आया है, कुछ लोग ऑलरेडी एकेडमी में बैठे हैं जहाँ रिजल्ट सुन रहे हैं अपना, राइट? दे आर इन सर्विस and they are in service waiting for a result and also preparing for the next prelims. Think of what will be the mental state of that person. How brilliantly that mind has to work. And with this situation also, prelims ka form you have filled, your interview might have happened, but you are preparing. You're still preparing till the last day, and the gap is so less. ठीक है, इस बार तो because of the election we had a slight delay, तो result और उसमें gap है sufficient 2 months का, but otherwise sometimes the result comes and the gap is 10 days. 10 days के बाद prelims. For people who have obviously rank 1, you know, who are going to get the service they like, for them it's okay, they can party. But what about those who did not get the service they wanted and they have to sit in the exam again? तो अब उनके लिए इतनी दुविधा है, पार्टी भी करनी पड़ेगी, इंटरव्यू भी देना पड़ेगा, राइट? और इंटरव्यू भी आजकल तो ऑसम स्टाइल के व्लॉगर्स एंड एवरीथिंग विल कम, they'll show your room, they'll show your cupboard, ये देखिए ये किताबें पढ़ रहे थे, right? All of that fanfare is happening and you're going back to practicing the MCQs. क्योंकि आपको पता है IFS चाहिए था, रैंक है 300, नहीं मिलेगा, तो दोबारा prelims. So if your mind is not being taken care of, it will not survive this whole thing. A lot of people wear out before they have their name in their PDF. और वो भी अभी से इन्वेस्ट करना है. You have to experiment and find out what works for you. What is your relaxation activity? I mean, you know, something like maybe meditation might not work for everyone. You might like to watch TV or you might like to play a game or whatever it is. वो भी experiment करके find out करो. That also has to be a part of your everyday activity. Breaks are important. 2 साल पढ़ना है. एटलीस्ट 2 साल पढ़ना है, ठीक है? सो अभी से ये भी आपकी रूटीन का असेंशियल पार्ट होना चाहिए. एंड सोशल हेल्थ तो एक्सट्रीमली डिफिकल्ट है फॉर अ यूपीएससी एस्पिरेंट. मेंटल हेल्थ तो है ये, सोशल और भी मुश्किल है. क्यों? बिकॉज द फ्रेंड्स विच यू हैड बिफोर यू केम टू दिस न्यू लाइफ, राइट? ये आपका नया जन्म हुआ अभी यूपीएससी में, दैट लाइफ इज नाउ गोइंग टू बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू कनेक्ट टू. Because all the people who were your friends, their lives are going to be very difficult, very different. They're going to be thinking about, if they've started working, they'll be thinking about EMIs and jobs and increments and credit cards. You don't understand all of that, right? You are going to be thinking about what will happen in the elections. What is the election commission going to do? What bill will be released? Budget sahi aaya hai nahi? That's going to be your life from now. So that disconnect with those people is going to be there, and associating with UPSC aspirant is again a biggest struggle because all the aspirants are your competitors. And I always give this example of Chatur. You know Chatur from 3 Idiots? यहाँ पे बहुत चतुर है, ठीक है? Chatur's job is to mislead. Chatur's job is to spread rumors. Chatur's job is to keep okay, the movie, yeah. Yeah, that every Chatur might not have access to the rooms, but yeah, maybe in other way. So some things are very simple, like people keep telling, यार तेरा तो हो जाएगा, तेरा तो हो जाएगा. वो किसी को रोज ऐसे बोलते रहो ना, 2 महीने बाद वो पढ़ना ही बंद कर देता है कि ले मेरा तो हो ही जाएगा, right? So you have to be very, very cautious about how you are going to interact, and I think the easiest way is to interact over something which is non-UPSC, right? Because there then everybody might get a chance to relax. So gossip about your landlord, right? Everybody hates the landlord. That's a very good theme I always feel, or anything else, right? पर ये भी जरूरी है. Preparation बहुत isolating हो जाती है after a point of time. You're sitting in the room, you're studying, and you have like 150 things written कि आज मुझे ये सारे 150 चीजें पढ़नी है, right? You're not able to do that, so you keep going into yourself, which again is not sustainable. So think of all these things also and practice a healthy lifestyle so that you survive well and have a sustained preparation for till the day you have those vloggers coming to show your room कि यहाँ बैठते थे, कुर्सी है, ये टेबल है. Till that time, 90% toppers say they study for 14 to 15 hours. So Anurag, once you become a topper, you can say whatever you want, right? Anything you say will sell. आप 18 hours बोल देना, ठीक है? See, closer to the exam, anybody would be able to put in that work, but शुरू से आप नहीं कर सकते. Nobody can, this is not humanly possible to study this much consistently for 2 years, right? You can have this variation closer to the exam. And another thing is कि आप बोल जो कुछ मर्जी सकते हो, आप भी बोल देना, आप 18 बोल देना, ठीक है, when you get selected. Let's write about health. Health is complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Complete physical, mental, and social well-being of an individual and not merely the absence of disease. Not merely the absence of disease. Ma'am, which chapters of 9th and 10th has to be read? As in the last class you told that it has to be read selectively. हाँ, तो वो selectively वाला chapter मैं तब बताऊंगी जब मैं topic पढ़ाऊंगी, पहले नहीं बताऊंगी, secret है वो, suspense. Stay tuned for lectures to come. What is the difference between disorder and disease? So again, we don't really need to go into this much technicality, but disorder just means any one part not working properly. That would be a disorder. Disease is a more comprehensive term, जिसमें there are going to be a group of symptoms together. Like if we say chicken pox में fever होता है, chicken pox में there are blisters over the body, chicken pox में there are rashes, there is itching. So ये सारा combination becomes a disease. And if you're just saying कि liver is not working properly, that can be a liver disorder, which can then be a part of many diseases like that. Now, as we are talking about health, as we are talking about diseases now, we are going to use some terms to describe the diseases. These terms you need to clearly understand and remember. These classifications, however, show a lot of flexibility. इसमें overlap भी possible है easily. ये absolute नहीं है. But terms, they have fixed meanings. First term is congenital. Congenital means anything which a person has right from the time of birth. Okay, if a person is born with a disease, that is congenital. And anything which happens after being born, that is acquired. So we'll write about these two terms first. Please write congenital diseases. Congenital diseases. Any abnormality in the structure, or function of a person, which is present right from the time of birth. And you can write examples. We have Down syndrome. Down syndrome is a genetic disease. When we come to genetics, we'll talk more about it. It is a condition of mental retardation with which some children are born. And there can be many heart diseases which can be from birth. Congenital heart disease. Like you might have heard about a hole in the heart. Some people are born with that kind of a heart defect. There are many other types also, but that's one of them. So such a situation where something is wrong with the heart and a person is born with that, it is the congenital heart disease. Then write down acquired diseases. Acquired diseases. Any disease which is not present at the time of birth, any disease which is not present at the time of birth but develops at a later stage of life of an organism. Later stage of life of an organism. Now, what all factors can lead to a person having a disease? Acquired disease. किस रीजन से हो सकती है? अनहेल्दी लाइफस्टाइल में क्या चीजें आएंगी? Eating, okay. Trans fat consumption, okay. Yes. Unbalanced diet. Substance abuse, alcohol, smoking, pan, tobacco, all of that. What else? Contaminated with what? Water में क्या है? Contaminated water is fine, but what is there in water which is harmful? Bacteria, viruses, right? So एक ये category होगी which we say infection, contamination, किसी भी चीज, contaminated water, air, any of that. Bacteria, virus, fungus, amoeba, any of these organisms, they can cause diseases. So this is one big category when you get a disease from an organism. Other category could be lifestyle related things. Diet, exercise, sleep. All of these can lead to problems in the working of different parts of the body. Anything else? Climate change, okay. The impact of climate, environment, or maybe things like pollution that can be associated with having different forms of diseases. Now this we are going to discuss with the help of two terms. One is communicable or infectious disease. This is when you have a disease from a disease causing organisms. When an organism causes diseases, the organism is called pathogen. अगर बैक्टीरिया कॉज कर रहा है डिजीज, बैक्टीरिया पैथोजन है. अगर वायरस कॉज कर रहा है डिजीज, वायरस पैथोजन है. फंगस कर रहा है, फंगस पैथोजन है. So whenever you have a disease from a pathogen, it is called infectious disease or communicable disease. या common language में we say it is an infection which has happened. Then all other categories of diseases, चाहे lifestyle से हैं, diet से हैं, टबैको से है, पोल्यूशन से है, क्लाइमेट के इफेक्ट से, कोई भी रीजन हो अदर देन द पैथोजन, they will all come under this category of non-communicable, non-infectious disease. ठीक है? Let's write both these terms. Please write communicable or infectious diseases. Communicable or infectious diseases. They occur because of disease causing organisms called pathogens. Disease causing organisms called pathogens. Now, can you tell me an example of such a disease caused by a pathogen? Malaria, cholera, COVID. You can write any one or two examples. We'll discuss more about this. Malaria, dengue, typhoid, tuberculosis. Then please write non-communicable or non-infectious diseases. Non-communicable, non-infectious diseases. They are not caused by pathogens. They are not caused by pathogens, but by lifestyle or environmental factors. Lifestyle or environmental factors. Now, can you give me an example in this category? Asthma, cancer, diabetes, mental disorders, goiter. Okay, all the diseases which you studied for deficiency, they'll all come here. Are congenital diseases and diseases which transfer through parents the same thing? See, if you have something being transferred from your parents, that means it is coming in your genetic material. और अगर genetic material cause है तो वो birth से ही पता चल जाएगा. So yes, diseases coming from parents, when parents have some disease, they will in all likelihood be congenital. Sometimes what happens is some of these diseases are not identified right at the time of birth. They are there, but their identification takes place later on. Even then, they will be considered congenital only. Junk food can cause cardiovascular diseases. Okay, all right. Now, we are going to talk about an aspect of healthcare, how we are supposed to take care of this health. What is the idea here? And for healthcare, I'll be using two terms. One is preventive healthcare, and the second is curative healthcare. Now, can you tell me what is preventive healthcare? By taking precautions which can be avoided or before having the disease. Preventive healthcare is everything like vaccines, which we will do before we have the disease. And curative will be whatever you do for treatment to cure the disease after the disease has happened. Now, can you tell me what all things in general can come under preventive healthcare? Vaccines is one thing which you have said, okay. Diet, balanced diet, sanitation, hygiene. We'll put supplements as a part of diet only, right? Access to clean drinking water, again, sanitation, hygiene. Yoga, yes. Mental health is also a part. So yoga and meditation. Okay, masks, or I'll just simplify this and write being aware, awareness, education about different diseases and how protection has to be given for those diseases. You can also add exercise and sleep, very important aspects of preventive healthcare. What about curative? Curative में क्या आएगा? Medicines, yes. The simplified understanding is you take medicines for treatment, then there might be a situation where surgery might be needed, or some form of dedicated therapy, like physiotherapy, mental health therapy. They can come under curative care. Now, the idea which I want to discuss here with you is that, see, curative healthcare is specialized healthcare. Curative healthcare बनाने के लिए there is a need for a lot of research, there is a need for trained manpower, highly educated, highly skilled workers can provide curative healthcare. But preventive is something very basic. Preventive is something which has to be given to everyone in a similar form, right? हाथ धोना सिखाना है तो सबको सेम ही सिखाना है. It doesn't require a lot of skilled workers. It is simpler to deliver as compared to curative healthcare. But what is happening is, if you think of our health policy, like in India, the health policy is mostly focused on curative healthcare. Okay, preventive healthcare is getting almost no emphasis, very little emphasis we can say. But we always talk about encouraging and promoting preventive healthcare more. Why? Because if preventive healthcare is delivered, the burden of curative healthcare can be reduced. ऐसा तो कभी नहीं होगा कि कोई डिजीज ना हो, क्यूरेटिव हेल्थ केयर की जरूरत ना पड़े. दैट कैन नॉट बी पॉसिबल, बट वी कैन मिनिमाइज इट. And this is a very resource intensive process. This is going to require a lot of money to create and established. So इसका लोड कम हो जाएगा अगर अच्छे से हम preventive health care deliver कर सकते हैं. So we always talk about giving more emphasis to preventive health care, which government has started doing also. There are programs like, there is a Eat Right movement. It's a government program. So such things need to grow at a bigger scale. There is a new profession emerging, which is a dietitian, which is preventive. So dietitian is fine, but I don't think it is a new profession. कौन सा इंजेक्शन? सी अब आपके इंजेक्शन में क्या है उस पर डिपेंड करेगा वो क्या आएगा. ठीक है, आप बीमार हो, आपको फीवर है, मैं फीवर की दवाई आपको खिला दूं या इंजेक्शन लगा दूं, दोनों प्रिवेंटिव, दोनों क्यूरेटिव हैं. ठीक है, बट अगर मैं आपको डिजीज होने से पहले वैक्सीन दूं, जैसे बच्चों को दे दें, प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ केयर. ठीक है, ओके. Services like X-ray or CT scan can be considered preventive or curative. It depends why a person is getting it done. If you're getting a regular checkup and a part of that is an X-ray and a CT, it will be preventive healthcare. If you are doing this because you already have some problem, then it is a part of your curative healthcare. क्या? I can't even make out the word. Steroids. Steroids again are medicines, very effective medicines in a lot of different kinds of diseases. They're a part of curative healthcare. But अगर बॉडी बिल्डिंग के लिए यूज कर रहा है कोई, तो ना वो प्रिवेंटिव में आएगी ना क्यूरेटिव में आएगी, वो आएगी डिस्ट्रक्टिव में. So just talking a little bit about non-communicable diseases. This is a list of examples of non-communicable diseases. See, curative healthcare may be, non-communicable diseases get a very little share. In curative also, a lot of emphasis is on, especially when the government is bringing up programs. So it's bringing up programs for communicable diseases. जैसे मलेरिया फैल रहा है, मलेरिया का प्रोग्राम बना दो, एड्स फैल रहा है, एड्स का बना दो, like that. Emphasis on non-communicable diseases specifically in terms of government health programs is less. And now the problem is this, that the burden, the number of people suffering from non-communicable diseases is becoming much more. It's growing very fast. See, as such, 70% of the world's population dies with a non-communicable disease. Okay, 70% cause of death is one particular non-communicable disease. But Now what has changed is, earlier a lot of these diseases were old age diseases, but their incidence is becoming earlier. जैसे diseases like heart disease, diabetes, they were associated with old age. Okay, you're 50 years, you're 60 years plus, but now that's not the case. People in their 20s have diabetes, people in their 30s have hypertension, which is now becoming a very common thing. So advancing in age and increasing number of people suffering from these diseases brings us to a situation where around the world there is a lot of discussion on non-communicable diseases, and in India also we now have a few programs targeting non-communicable diseases. ये सब जो ideas हैं, they are going to come across in your current affairs. So keep reading about anything specifically happening in India. That will always be very important and potentially relevant for the questions which can be asked. Please write these examples. Cardiovascular diseases means disease of your heart and blood vessels, like you have hypertension, then you can have respiratory diseases like asthma, deficiency diseases. You have studied a lot of deficiency diseases, so I'll write one. Anemia. These are just a few examples, और बहुत categories हो सकती हैं. We just mentioned a few. Mental disorders like clinical depression. Then you can have diseases from the impact of the environment, mainly the pollution related diseases. एक disease है Minamata disease. This is because of excess levels of mercury in water. So if the water is polluted with mercury, this mercury goes into the fish, and then when people consume this fish, they can get the disease Minamata disease. Minamata is the name of a town in Japan where this disease was first identified. And Japan, a lot of fish is consumed, and a lot of fish, that fish is raw. So this disease can happen. Sometimes the occupation of a person can be associated with the person getting a disease. Silicosis is a disease in people who work with silica. So they breathe in a lot of silica, and that leads to silicosis. It is going to be a breathing disorder, respiratory disease. And cancer is a category of its own, which is also a non-communicable disease. Just remember what this term signifies. Non-communicable means a disease where no pathogen is involved. अगर कोई organism नहीं है responsible to cause that disease, it will be a non-communicable disease. See, clinical depression is one form of a mental disorder. It's a little challenging for me to explain what exactly it is, but there's one idea where people say we are feeling low, right? This is not that depression. या जो commonly सब लोग बोलते हैं मुझे बहुत depression हो रहा है, वो नहीं है. ये clinical depression is a clinical conditions where a person regularly will have some phases of high key and low key moods with unexplainable reasons or causes, right? There's a very interesting video if you would like to see. So I'm personally a very big fan of TED Ed. Do you know about TED Talks? So they also have an education channel where they release very small videos, 4 minutes, 5 minutes like that. So TED पे एक बहुत जबरदस्त video है clinical depression में. You can go and watch it. Okay. So I have one more concern about self-test questions. बताइए sir. I think he asked it earlier also. Question number 6. Cellulose and starch are found only in animals. You have to identify which are correct. Okay, so this is not correct. Cellulose makes the cell wall of plants. This is correct. Then glycogen is found only in plants. This is incorrect. So answer should be, right, A. सही है. Okay, so one of your beliefs is wrong. Deepak, this answer is fine. Then 7. Most of the time saturated fats are from plant sources. This is incorrect. Most of the time they are from animal sources. Most of the time unsaturated fats are liquid. This is correct. The oils are your unsaturated fats. Most of the time unsaturated are from animal sources. This is incorrect. And most of the time saturateds are solid at room temperature. So saturated are solid and animal sources. So ये correct है, 2 correct है, right? 2 statements are correct, right? अच्छा. 7B. 7th is also fine. और क्या था? 8th. Carbohydrates. Acha, how many are correct? All right. Carbohydrate ester bond, no. Proteins peptide bonds is fine. Fats glycosidic is not fine. So answer should be A. Yeah, it's also fine. Now please lecture revise karo yaar. Maybe you are confused in this. What the question is asking is how many statements are correct, right? This format of which of the following is correct, right? जिसमें आप कह रहे हो one only is correct or two only is correct. In questions में maybe you have missed this out. This is a very good observation of Ritesh that how many पूछ रहा है, कितनी सही हैं. Please read this again. I think the confusion will not be there. जी 9 भी बता दूं अब, नहीं बता दिए तो अच्छा है. Which is incorrect? Incorrect पढ़ लिया था आपने? They can be synthesized within the body except for vitamin D. आपको ये सही लग रहा है, गलत लग रहा है कि समझ नहीं आ रही? अच्छा, ये बोल रहा है कि विटामिन डी के अलावा सारे विटामिन बॉडी में बन सकते हैं. ये सही है कि गलत है? है गलत है, राइट? सो 1 इज गोइंग टू बी इनकरेक्ट, राइट? In our next class, we'll start with communicable diseases. And after that, we will do immunity and vaccination. From your NCRT, I forgot who asked me, but I'm going to tell a chapter from class 9th. Okay. Cell का chapter class 9th में ही है, chapter number 5. So you can go through this chapter. All right. Thank you. Have a nice day.